Web applications, React Part 2. So let's first start with fragments. So components need to return always an element, and one element only. So they cannot return two elements, they can return only one element. That is fine in most of the cases, as one can put everything inside a div, or you just need to return a paragraph or an image or div. So most of the cases it's fine. But then there are cases that do not fit inside a div, or you need to return several elements in somehow different. For example, if you have a component that should return table data cells, TDs, a lot of TDs, so basically several columns, so then you would need to have a way to return those, and you cannot return those in a div because it would break the syntax of HTML. So instead of div we can use React fragment, and React fragment is like this. So it's the fragment component, and you can give a key to it if you want. If there is a need to give some kind of a ID, then you can do it, and inside this fragment you can put as many elements as you wish. So it's like a div, but it's a fragment which is removed when the page is then rendered. So instead of having this fragment tag, there is no tag at all. So you can put TDs inside here, and then your table syntax is okay. Or you can even shorthand this, so you don't need to write React fragment or fragment. You can just put the open empty tag and closing tag without any content or name. It works like that. But if you use the shorthand method, then you lose the option for the key. So if you need to have a key for the component, then you need to have the keyword fragment there. Then about the router and routing. So React does not have a routing in core, but of course there is a package that does the job called React Router DOM. It's the way to do some routing. And there is of course manual and examples from reactrouter.com, and you can install it with npm. And the usage is quite straightforward. The aim is to build routes in JSX, so you don't need to have a different programming language or different definition, you just use JSX. And version 6 was just released, so if you Google around routing, you might get manuals or examples for version 5, and the syntax is a bit different, so make sure that you are reading version 6 manuals and documents, for example from Stack Overflow. And this is the syntax. So we define router, and inside the router there are routes, and inside routes there are the exact route. For example, here we have a root path and about path, and those URLs are then taken care, and with the about URL path then there is this about component is being rendered, and in the root the poems component is going to be rendered. Let's have an example of this. So let's continue with the app of ours. So we had this functionality that we could add poems to this React based application. Let's install this React Router DOM. Takes a while. Yep, and then we have it, so we can continue with our app. So first of all, we want to get some kind of a additional page. Let's call it an about page. Let's add it here in our components. About.js, and we can get it like here. Now it's available. Let's add just header there, about, and we can keep some paragraph text. And now we would like to have a page here called about, so we could use this URL to see the page, but now we don't have anything like that. So we have now the React router DOM, so let's import it. And we will take some useful components like browser router. We take it as a router as it's shorter, routes and route from React router DOM, like this. And then we can modify our application part here. First, let's have this whole app in a router like this, and then we can start building new routes inside. But let's add a menu so we could get also a link to the about page. So let's add this menu. So this is also very simple. No. So menu that is only having links to this home page, and then another link to this about page, like this. And then we can add this menu here, like this. Menu is not defined, we haven't added. And let's add this about also. Oh yeah, I'm just yeah. And now everything is working. We have a menu here. So let's then, these are not working, these links, so we need to do some routing. So we want to have this menu visible on all the pages, so only these elements should be in another route, and then there should be this about route 2. So these will be inside routes like this. And now we can define the first route, which has the pathed route like this. And then what is the element we are using? Well, the element is, these are the elements, these two components we have here, like this. But now it's not working. So why? Because this takes only one component, so now it's a little bit of working. But we want to give two, so now we can use the fragments. So just providing fragment, so we can then give two of these. And now we are seeing the about page, which is not existing here in the route, so we can go back to the home and it's working. And then we need to add another route. And this is the about page. And then what we are giving this element is the about. No, like this. And now we have a home page and the about page. And now you can see that every time I'm pressing this link, this is refreshing, the whole page is refreshing. When we are building a app with React, this sounds like too much 1990s, so we do not want to refresh the whole page, so we need to do something about this. So let's go with the menu, and instead of using link, we use the React way to do this. So let's import React component, not React component, but React router DOM component link, like this. And now we can change these anchor tags to link component, and we give props to home and then end this link, and same here. Like this. And now the page is not reloaded anymore. We just get the new content from the new content to show on the page without reloading the whole page. So this is not basically not reloading, but re-rendering the whole page. So this is good. So this is the basic how we use different routes, router, routes, and then there are these different routes to different to include different components. And then there are plenty of other things you can build routes like these and like these, but these are not covered right now. This is just a basic. Now we have two pages which show different things. And then something about the higher order components, HOCs. So often there is a need to have similar functionality between different components. It is possible to build higher order component by wrapping an original component to a wrapper that returns enhanced component. So basically, if you would be doing object-oriented programming, you would think this as a superclass and subclass and inheritance. But with inheritance, you cannot inherit features from superclass directly. But with higher order components, you can do that. So only some parts of the code can implement that. Some other functionality and some components do not need to have it. So this wrapper includes the added functionality. For example, we could think of it like this, that we would have Tony Stark, which is a normal human, and with suit he becomes Iron Man. So this wrapper is this suit that we are building. Or we could think about this like SpaceX is doing Starship. They have this crane silo, and they are putting rocket engines to the bottom of the silo, and then you get Starship out of that. So let's have an example on higher order components. So let's continue with the higher order components. Let's think about this like that we have poems here and we would like to like them. So basically like Facebook, there would be heart, or with Twitter you can like something and then there is a heart and it shows how many likes some tweet here, some poem has got. So let's go with this poem component and let's add some kind of a counter. Let's call it just count, and then we have this set count, and we are using use state, and this is an integer value, and of course we need to import from React like this. So now we have the counter and the method to set the count, and then let's build a function called increment count. So we can increment count. This is once again arrow function, and this just sets count plus 1. And of course we could build this function like that we get parameter and then we can use something else than just 1, but let's go with 1 right now. And then we would like to have some kind of a button here. Of course, let's add some kind of a counter, visible counter inside this button. And while someone is clicking it, then we will call this method, this increment count, like this. This is the button, and then inside this button we will have the count, and then let's copy paste some emoji there, like this. And let's see, now we have a button that has this like functionality, and we can just like as many times as we would like to. And this works as we want. Then next we will add a footer. This is just a component that tells that it's copyrighted by me. Let's add some copy sign there, like this, and then let's add this footer here. And of course we need to have it also here. Let's see, now we have a footer here, okay. And now we would like to have some kind of functionality here also, that we can increase some kind of number, telling that someone has visited this page, let's say how many times today and things like that. So instead of implementing this same counter, let's take this counter functionality out of this component and make it a new component. So let's add a folder, high order components, and let's add new file called with counter.js. And now we are using small letter here in the beginning. So what we are doing, we are basically taking this here, and then we need to take this out of the component and have it here. But what we are building here, we are building this with counter, and this is just a function, and it takes a parameter, the original component, and then we are doing something with that. So we are building a new component. It takes the props it has, like this, then we can have these inside the component. So we are building a new component which has these functionalities. Then we need to return something. And what we are returning this original component, but we are giving it as these new props count, and this method increment count equals this increment count, and we are giving also the all the other props like this. we have this wrapper with counter, and we need to then export it. No, default with counter. And now how we use this is here. Now we want to have this here. Of course, we first need to import it. And this is one pack, then HOC and with counter. And now we are not exporting a poem, but we are exporting with counter, and we are giving this poem to that wrapper. We are now getting errors. We are now getting props. Okay, we had the props method here, but we should of course get the poem. We can of course use these props, but let's get the poem, increment count and count. And now it's okay when we remove these props and we go short with the then we have with counter is not defined. Okay, we have a typo here. Oh, we are missing then we have this new component and we are missing a return. We should return it. And now it's working. So let's see. We have this working. Good. So we are exporting with counter with poem. So we are giving a poem here as an original component, and then we are having this new component. We are using this original component and we are adding new features, this new functionality. So one variable in use states and then one function to increase that. And then we are returning new component and export. Well, this is just exporting this. We are returning this new component, which is then exported here. And so basically, if we go here, we create a new poem, but we are not creating just this poem, but we are using this with counter wrapper too. And now we have the functionality in this this higher order component, and now we can use the same functionality here in the footer. So let's modify this a bit. We need to first we need to of course import this with counter, and now we are once again exporting this with counter, and now we can have these functionalities, so this increment count and count, and then we can have here for example we can here have a count hits today. And how we could modify this, let's add a on mouse over, and here we are using this increment count. Let's see. So now every time I'm moving a mouse over this div, it gets more hits, and these are getting more likes. So we are using the same functionality, just this small functionality in two different components. Poem component and then in a footer component. And we are using them in different cases. Here we are using on mouse over, and here we are using a on click. But it's the same functionality. We just want to increment something. We just have these new things here. So this is higher order component when we are building this kind of a wrapper. A very useful concept. And then internationalization, I18N, so it's a long word, so we can just simplify it. Very often there is need to have various languages in the application. And then of course there are plenty of tools to help in this. There are a few things to consider. First, we need to have a way to detect the language, so we can do it automatically based on the browser's language or IP addresses or geolocation or something like that. But then again, you need to give a user the option to override that automatic detection, so user has the last word to decide what kind of language he or she wants to use in the web app. And then we need to have a way to translate content and serve the right translation to the user. And we can use this IAT next if we want, and now we are going to have a short example on that. So we would like to have some translations, so let's go with this React Internationalizations package, and we have a step-by-step guide. So first we need to install a few things. I think I already installed these, but let's see. And then we could install also these ones, so we get the automatic detection. And then let's copy paste this one, and we need to create this i18n file. So here we have the basic things. So we are using a backend, we are using language detector, and we do some initial settings, something like if there is no language translation available, we are falling back to the English. Debug mode is true, so this is fine. And the next thing is that in this index.js we need to add this import. And then we can start using this translating things. So let's go with our menu, and we want to do some translating. So let's copy paste this here and this here. So now we have the translation part, and now we can use this t function. So we are trying to translate home, and then we are trying to translate this about page. So we don't have even server up and running. And yeah, these are strings, of course. So let's have them like this. And now we have only home and about, there is no translations. So we need to add those translations files. So let's first add locales folder, and then those folders that we are translating. So let's have a Finnish translation and English translation, but the English is of course now here already. So let's go with the Finnish one and add a file called translation.json. And then I will just copy paste translations here. So we have this home and about. So home is tervetuloa, welcome. We can call it also etusivu, front page. And about is tietoa sivustosta. And now we would like to see these. As I'm using English as in my browsers and in my operating system, so there is no way to see how these could be in Finnish. So we need some kind of a, now we are using the automatic detection. So let's build buttons here to change the language. So first we will have a button on click, and we will use array function change language, and we are giving parameter fi. Like this, and of course we now need to have this function here. So let's build that. And this is providing us the functionality this is providing the functionality we need. There is change language method, and we just give that parameter there. So now there is and of course we are not having anything inside the button, so let's have this like yeah, and we are missing something right now. And what we are missing is of course this suspend fallback, so we can have it if that could solve our problem. Let's see. So we need to, while this translating process is ongoing, we need to do something to show something to user, and we can do it by this way. Yeah, using suspense component. It's just telling us that loading is going on, and inside this we are using this menu component of ours, so when the translation is ready we can get it. Let's see, now it works. And let's add a second button. English. Now it's working. So we don't have the actual English translation. We could add here also the. So the VS Code crashed. Let's get back to business. Let's add the file translation.json like this, and then we can have this Finnish version also here in the English version. So front page, and this about is just about. So English version and the Finnish version, they are both working. So nothing else is translated but the menu right now. So let's see. We have these files which contain the translations, and then we have the menu, and here we use this component, this module. We get the function to use to translate some strings, and then we have also this method here that we will use when some button is pressed, and then we can define the language with this change language method. Not that hard, but you need to remember that if you are providing a translation, you need to provide a way to user to override the automatic detection, and that's why we are using this, utilizing and providing these buttons, so user can decide what language he or she wants to use. Then a few words about use effect. So when there is a need to do something before the page is being re-rendered or rendered at all, use effect is the correct way, for example, to fetch some data from external sources from some API. Developer can decide what triggers the call and what will happen when it's triggered. So here is the basic syntax boilerplate. So we designed a use effect, and inside this we have an arrow function, and inside that we do the actual effect what we want to do, for example fetch some kind of a data. And then there is a return clause, and we do clean up in that return clause. And this is a bit strange, but this cleanup is done before the effect is done. So if you are using this use effect every time users clicks some button or something, then the cleanup is done first and then the effect is run. So you clean up the last button effect first and then you implementing the new one. And then there is this second parameter input, and you can define what triggers the use effect. So you can decide that only this button triggers it, or this and that button triggers it, or everything triggers it, or nothing triggers it. So if there is an empty array, then it's never re-rendered, and this use effect is never recalled. So let's have an example on use effect. So the last example, this a use effect. So let's see how it would work. Let's get rid of these. And let's go with this about bait. So let's just use that as our template. So what we would like to have, we would like to have data here. So let's first add a variable, use state, what kind of a data we would like to have. And it's a string, and first default is posts, and we don't have the use state. And we will need also this use effect from React, like this. So let's add button. Now on click, and here in the on click we are just setting the state. No, we are not setting the state, we are setting the data type. It can be posts, or it can be comments. So we will use this JSON placeholder API that will provide us just some fake data. And of course we need to show user what is this value of this data type, like this. Now it's post, and if user presses comments, then it's comments. And now we would like to get new data. So first we need to have this data, of course. Let's just copy paste this and have a data like this and this, and it's empty as a default. And then we can have here just some data like this. So it's empty right now, but then we need to have some kind of a function to modify this. So let's use this use effect. It's like this, and then we are just providing a arrow function, and we are fetching data, but let's go and see what kind of a data we could get. So there is this JSON placeholder. Let's just check that we can get data. Okay, let's just copy paste this we get some data like this. But we are not wanting to get to-dos, but we want to get posts and comments. Let's just remove this and let's put no post or comments, but data type. We have the data type, and then of course we need to change these baptics like this. And now we have the data. Let's see. Here in the console we should get something. And we did get something. No, I'm having this wrong, like this, of course. And now we got data. So what we are getting right now, 500 comments, or then there is a typo, posts, like this. So 100 posts or 500 comments. And let's of course then get this not the console part. We can set data and we can put that JSON stringify and provide that JSON we got from the server. And now we are getting, no, this is not good. Let's have a just paragraph so we do not get everything on one line. And it's working. And this use effect, we don't have any we haven't specified anything here. When should we use this use effect? So now I'm setting that it's used basically never. So if I'm pressing here, nothing happens. This is not updated. And when we didn't have anything, it's getting always updated. But what we would like to use in real life is that when this this data type is switched here, then this content will be updated. So this is how we use this use effect, and we can then do some fetching for the information. For example, we can do of course a lot of other things too, but now we got some data. So you use effects when you want to get something done, when something is changing. So here we are changing the data type by pressing these buttons, and when the data type is changed, we are re-rendering this part here, and of course this part too, because it's providing just a data type. Yeah, this is how you use effects. So as a conclusion, React has lots of useful techniques to use when developing an application. If you have a problem, it's quite sure that there is already a solution for that. So you just Google it around and hope that you find the best solution for that problem of yours. And for example, what package or technique is the correct one. So there are probably plenty of different packages that do the same thing, but you need to figure it out what is the best. Stack Overflow is quite useful here. And this was just a simple demo of Fragments, routing, higher order components, internationalization and use effect. There are plenty of other React parts available, and of course you can read the React documentation to get ready to use those.